Who's there? Well, hello everybody, or anybody who might be around. We're back again. This time we have Micah with us. So, hello, Micah. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
I'm not sure how many people are here, or 2 people are watching so far, but hopefully that will go up. And how are you doing, Sean? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. It's just things are a bit laid back today for me. A bit slow, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So, who have we got here? Woohoo. Thank you, Nate. Gerald's in the house. Hello, Gerald. And Amy, welcome. Hello. Good to see you again. Hello, Gerald. Excellent. Wonderful. I have to keep an eye. I'm got this kind of control station. I don't know if you've done this before, Mike, or when you've been the host, but there's more stuff. So
I've never hosted or been a part of a live stream. This is first for both for me.
It's quite new for me. I think it was a steep learning curve just in this past week, really.
Yeah.
I've done one.
Quite a few of them the last couple
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
So.
You'll find it's quite addictive, to be honest. Don't you think so, Sean?
Yeah.
I love watching them. So I can imagine doing them is even better.
Yeah, we'll probably wind up switching back maybe in a couple weeks, and switching back and forth. That Mark will do one and I'll do one.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. We may well do that. Hello, Flo. Good to see you. Well, you know what I mean. I can't remember
the avatar.
Yeah, I can't remember now how I changed this because I'm worried the comments are too big, maybe, but that'd be all right. I think.
You have quite a lot to manage over on your end.
A little bit, yeah. My biggest fear is because I'm looking up that I might miss a potential. I'm not going to say if we have a fourth guest, but if we do, I might miss them coming in. So,
miss them.
Yeah, because they're down the bottom and they just kind of pop up. There's no real notification, is there, Sean? It's just they appear and you have to let them into the chat. So
that's a middle-aged problem.
I don't like to think of myself as middle-aged. That's horrible.
It's just a number.
So you were saying before we went on about heading off to college this year. So from September, October, or from next year?
It will be next year. Oh, wait.
Oh, I'm leaving.
Scaring Sean away.
Here I am. Yeah, you're gonna have to try to see if you can minimize not minimize, but the comments. Yeah, either that or move it up higher, or at least the one side.
I can pop them back, but I don't remember how to do it once it's going well. I mean, you guys can talk while I work that out. But Micah, sorry, continue. What are you going to study?
That's what I'm deciding right now.
Okay.
I've had an interesting couple of experiences with college / university. I attended a local culinary school for a year, almost a year and a half, actually. Back before I knew what I wanted to do, I had graduated high school. And I didn't know what I wanted to study, and I love cooking. So we have a great local culinary school, so I attended there. Really enjoyed it, but it wasn't a career for me. And really, they wanted it to be a career for you. That's how it was, really slanted towards. You are here, and we will place you in a job, and you will work a 70-hour week. Upon graduation, and it will be your life. And I just didn't want that because obviously I couldn't do any of the booktube, any of the reading or the writing that I love to do. So I decided to end that and move on. I'm trying to decide. I don't want to do an English degree. I was going just to do an English degree. And then Steve, you had told me that was a terrible idea. And that it blew your mind that I would ever want to get an English degree because it would probably be completely pointless. And so I'm trying to find something that will be worth my energy and my time and money putting into going to university, because I don't want to just go because it's what you're supposed to do. I don't want to have debt for something that doesn't help me in the long run. So I'm trying to figure out right now. I'm really leaning towards Eastern European studies or Russian history. But Steve, I see you doing it again. So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer. I don't know what the answer would be. So
I have the right answer if you would like to hear it.
I would like the right answer. I would like
Go
the right answer.
back to culinary school.
Yeah.
Finish a culinary degree. When they told you this is going to be your life, you're going to eat, sleep, and drink it, they were only scaring you. It isn't real. That doesn't have to be real. Do you honestly think professional chefs don't read for pleasure? Of course they do.
And Anthony Bourdain probably read quite a lot.
I'm sure he did. So, yeah. It's
No, don't study history. Don't study any of your passions. Don't study any of your passions. Don't go back to culinary school so that you have a skill that you can ask money for.
There we go.
Sean, what was your
Trust
stage
me
advice
when I
going to
say.
be? Sean?
Who?
Oh, I was just going to say, did you say 70 hours a week, Micah?
I did.
Yeah, so part-time jobs. Another problem with the young. Just they can't hold down part-time jobs.
Right.
Why would what job like 70 hours a week? That's just insane.
I don't know. Chefs do a lot, don't they? I mean, especially when you're a young one.
I also just didn't really enjoy the people that were in the program. It was everyone there, instructors, other students, just weren't super fun to be around. Very arrogant, very sort of caught up in their own, in their own lives. It was interesting. I think there's something about that program that draws a certain personality. I don't know what it is.
Is anybody else experiencing audio problems?
I am, yes.
Anybody else experiencing audio problems?
Not me.
They're pretty prohibitive at my end.
I can't see you. I can hear you. I can't see you very well though.
Yeah, I would say, Steve, your picture is blurry.
Oh no, could I be the problem?
No.
In this, as in so many things, could I be the problem?
No.
Oh my!
No, never.
That's a rhetorical
Because
question.
StreamYard can easily handle 4 people.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Should I sign out and sign in again?
You can try it, but
Amy says it sounds okay. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah. No, I mean, as I say, the picture keeps going in and out a bit, but otherwise I hear everybody fine. So
I think it's the StreamYard. It does start lagging once you get more.
But I'll just. Subject, I will marry in your culinary program. You should put up with.
I think we lost him.
yeah, I think
Must be on it.
Mark is gone. Mike is gone.
technology. You gotta love it, haven't you?
This isn't sustainable. No way.
Okay. I don't know if it's on.
Well, everybody seems frozen except me, which is not a deal breaker. Happy to just keep talking. There.
I don't know. I wish I knew.
I can't
Yeah,
see
it must just be.
Sean is
StreamYard.
frozen. Micah is frozen. Mark is. So StreamYard's not all it's cracked up to be. Interesting.
Hang on. Right.
Now all 3 of them are frozen.
Well, I've just kicked them out a second.
Well,
I'll bring
screen
them.
time for Steve.
No. I'll bring them back in. But I just wondered if it improved things. No. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you. Yeah, the audio and the visual are leveling out just fine when it's just you.
All right, I'll kick them out then.
Your internet.
They were riffraff to begin with. Oh, oh, how awkward.
They could hear you the whole time. So.
I could hear you the whole time. I was just backstage. I could hear.
Oh dear. Well, yeah, with chef's training, you can travel the world. It's a great point. Steve is
Steve's
back
traveled the
now.
world without that, though.
Sorry, Micah.
So
Yes,
Steve's traveled the whole
without
world
any
without
chef's
that,
training,
though.
that's absolutely true. Frida and I came across a box of French fries on the sidewalk this morning, and we split them 50-50.
There you go.
They've been bleached a little by the rain yesterday, but they were still fine. Just
There you
take the
go.
ants off them, and they
Wonderful.
were still fine.
Yeah, take the ants off. That's all I have to do.
Oh my, are we still having technical difficulties? Oh, we are.
Oh, I
Oh,
wonder, is it
my.
on? I don't think it's on my end. I can see you all just fine.
Goodness gracious.
I
wonder if I should be the one who's kicked out and then
would
readmitted.
restarting
Maybe.
the stream help?
Well, hang on. Let's just see a second. I mean,
Well,
it's fine.
Now that's perfectly fine now in every way.
Oh yeah, ready to go.
Yeah, he can hear us, but we can't hear him now. We can't hear Steve.
It's funny. His camera's gone blank.
Yeah, so it's his
It's on his
internet.
end. I
It's
think
on
it
his
is.
end.
May just be his connection or whatever device he's using.
And now we got two Steve Donahues.
What?
Back. He's back now.
I
It's a little
am.
better. It's a little clearer.
So is the problem me? The problem is my tech?
Well, probably your internet, the bandwidth, for some reason.
It's all the stuff you're
Well, I'm in the
downloading.
little book
Steve.
room. I'm further away from the modem than usual.
That's probably what it is.
Could that be the problem?
Could
That's
be
probably the problem.
Oh.
because we had
Because
no
I'm right
problems.
next to the
Uh,
sender.
We had no problems the other
Okay.
day, did we? So
No. We don't appear to be having any problems right now.
No, I think it's back.
Yeah, right now it seems to be okay.
Okay.
just don't move, Steve. Just don't move. Stay.
Well, if need be, I can move my whole setup. I can go onto the fainting couch. I'm only doing this here because I've been here all morning. I've been here recording things all morning, so I just didn't think to move. That's all.
Probably settling
Seems to
in.
be
Hopefully.
back.
Frida's nice and comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, that's older comment. Probably. I think not just relating
No.
to now.
Seems to be fixed.
No.
No.
All right. All but Steve are crystal clear, and Steve's audio is jumbled. Okay, I think this is me. Well, why don't I leave and change
delay.
locations and see if that helps?
All right, we'll try that.
Yeah. See if that works.
Okay, now he can't see us or hear us, so.
Quickly, we need to say.
Oh, now you're going, Micah.
I am?
Oh, well, you did for a second, and now you're clear.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's just
I'm clear? Okay.
it's
Good.
contagious.
I have bad reception, bad Wi-Fi up in this room occasionally, so hopefully it holds up.
It's
See.
funny, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a punishment for having done too many live streams this week.
Maybe StreamYard's trying to say something.
Well, even when I'm doing the Desert Island books, just me and someone else, it will sort of, well, as you've probably seen them, it'll freeze, and everything. Like it's never a perfect stream, but I'm sure it's got to do not so much with StreamYard. It's got to do with the internet, either my connection or their connection.
I think
That's
sometimes the time of day can have an impact.
And since I'm from England here, leaves on the tracks and stuff like that can can cause the wind blows the wrong way and the internet goes.
Looks much
Right.
better, Steve.
That's
I'm
way
back
better.
in.
We can see you.
Is it? So it all looked fine to me, but I was the problem.
You were the
That
problem.
isn't shorthand for the 21st century. I don't know what it is. I was the problem all along.
There we go. People are saying it looks better now.
Excellent.
So Flossie said better. Good.
Excellent. Well, I have a question for all of you.
Wonderful.
I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know what
Well,
our
neither.
subject is, but I watched, I think all of you probably watched also as well. Jason Harrigan yesterday made an announcement that in 2023, he is going to slowly, methodically read his way through his favorite author, Umberto Eco, book by book. Eco Fiction, 2023. And he's going to do a read along of each of the books and also, talk about them in depth. And that got me thinking, what would that be like if all the BookTube did that? Who would it be for everybody? I mean, the younger members of BookTube, like Micah and myself, would probably be out of luck because the younger you are, is it likely that the younger you are, the less like you are to have an established all-time favorite author that you know a lot about? I doubt that anybody on BookTube knows more about Umberto Eco.
Yeah.
Sean, for instance, you have Clifford D. Seamack, right? If you were to do a 2023 version of Eco Fiction yourself, it would certainly be Seamack, wouldn't it?
Well, it is. On his birthday in August, I'm starting a complete read-through next year of every single thing he wrote, even his journal.
Well, that's right. So you're doing that as well.
Yeah.
So, Mark or Micah, do you have a candidate? I automatically thought about it myself. I thought about doing that same thing in 2023 for the Roman poet Ovid. He didn't write that many individual books. There's plenty to talk about. I'd go into each one of them.
I don't think I'd be qualified to pick a singular favorite of all time just because of how short I've been reading. I certainly have authors I've read more of than others, but
yeah, I think that would be another drawback for some booktubers as opposed to others, is that you really couldn't do an event like that unless you'd read everything multiple times, unless you were really familiar with it. I mean, you couldn't really. It wouldn't really work to have Jason saying, "Well, we're going to do Eco Fiction, except for the one book of his I haven't read." That wouldn't work.
Right. Exactly.
Is there such a person for you, Mark?
Well, I mean, I can't say I've read all their works. So for me, it would be the first time reading everything, but I would read everything by them. And probably not a popular choice, but it was just someone I was interested in doing was Haggard, H. Rider Haggard. But there's
you're intent on being canceled, aren't you?
Honestly, I've given up. I'm past caring.
Well, I'm starting on September 20th or 21st, H.G. Wells' birthday, to read chronologically his fiction. I haven't read most of it, so it's just going to be reading it and discovering it, a lot of the stuff that I haven't read.
It made me think and now I'm thinking even more about it now that Sean, you reminded me that you're doing CMAC in 2023. And that it's made me think about what it means to have a favorite author. I just love that kind of thing. I love thinking about that kind of thing. I know some readers who go their whole life without having a favorite author, without that bond with the.
And have you some idea though, Steve? You said Ovid, didn't you? Apologies. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For me, it would be Ovid. I mean, the runner-up would be the Dutch humanist Erasmus. There's no point in that, since the huge chunks of what he wrote have one English translation, if that, and none of it's known except The Praise of Folly, and The Praise of Folly is barely known anymore. But Ovid, is Elvis playing with you? That's what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, he keeps bringing his.
No wonder Frida is growling
his toys.
Oh my. We had an incident on our walk yesterday where a little puppy tried to play with Frida. She was utterly outraged. Just utterly outraged at the time. I kept quietly telling her afterwards, baby, it wouldn't hurt you to play. You could play if you wanted to.
Love that.
And have you got any pets, Micah?
I do not. I wouldn't mind getting one at some point, but my parents are both highly allergic to animals, so it wouldn't work while I'm living at home. But I think when I'm out on my own, I would definitely get a pet.
So they're allergic, but you're not.
Right, I'm not. I don't know why.
The benefit for me is that schnauzers are hypoallergenic, so you can have them with a person can have allergies. My surly houseboy is allergic to cats and dogs.
Oh,
and has no effect. Frida doesn't shed. There's no hair anywhere here, like there always has been in my life. Little snowdrifts. I bet Elvis sheds like
Oh,
crazy.
oh my God! Yes,
Yeah,
I was
the
thinking
whole
about it
dog
today.
every day is how people
Pretty
used to
much.
put it for me. And I used to live with crowds of beagles, and you had beagle hair everywhere.
Ah.
Frida doesn't shed at all, so there's nothing like that.
I don't have a pet, but I still have the shedding problem around here.
I'm
Just want to
curious.
address the comments quickly, though. Alexis here says, don't know if you saw it, Mike. He says the college is free in Finland, really cheap.
Oh, yeah.
And Finland's not Scandinavia, I suppose, but in other Nordic countries, and they speak English over there. Yeah, they do, but the problem is it's not free for you, I'm afraid, Mike.
Yeah.
I believe that is the problem. I've actually looked into that before.
You have to be
Hearing
in the
people say that.
EU, or another country that's free. It's reciprocal agreements. So, Roald Dahl. Oh, Roald Dahl read through. Yeah.
Ah,
That's also going to get you cancelled.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We don't know what the reason was why Ovid was banished by the Emperor Augustus. For all I know, it was also a cancelable reason.
Yeah,
for
he was
all I know.
cancelled.
Good points.
You have no idea these days whatsoever. Maybe you took out a billboard in ancient Rome that said the definition of woman is adult human female. And that was it. That was why he was canceled to Thomas, because that's what he took out a billboard saying, because that's cancelable now.
Well, I'm also another author will be Sax Romer.
There we go.
Oh, we've just got cancellation bingo going on here. You can't. I mean, H. Rider Haggard is bad enough. Sax Romer, though? Oh no.
Well, I'm gonna do a read through of the Fu Manchu books.
Sean,
But that's it. Yeah.
you can't do a read through of the Fu Manchu books.
I can and I will be.
You can't. You'll be canceled. You'll lose your TikTok.
Is Charlie Chan more acceptable, though?
Charlie Chan is infinitely more acceptable. Yeah,
I think so. I was so surprised how good they were. How
that
relatively inoffensive. He's great, isn't he? I have to say,
he's fantastic. Yeah, and the saving grace for Charlie Chan is that there's no pass given to racism. He doesn't like it, and nor do any of the other good characters in the books.
Yeah, that's true.
It exists, but it's not taken as a granted. It's not taken as a good thing.
No, it's to highlight how bad some of the other characters are, really, isn't it, when it's used?
Yeah, it always amazes me.
The way I'm going to be doing it is it's going to look at the whole phenomena of that type of thing, that the yellow peril thing. I'm going to look at the whole thing of other authors as well. I'm going to highlight it as this was part of.
You'll be canceled. You'll lose your TikTok. You'll be canceled.
I don't use TikTok much anymore. I put up a whole bunch of videos, but
well, it's an interesting question, though, Steve. I have to say. What about some of you watching? Who would you do a read through of? Who are your favorite authors?
I wonder. I'm always curious about the phenomenon of developing a favorite author. What it takes to do that. You know, is it necessarily that they always please you? Usually, I don't get that impression.
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, Micah, who is your favorite author, regardless of how many of their books you've read? Do you have a favorite author, or are you?
Oh man.
Or is it an emergent property of how much you read?
I think it might be that.
So until you've read more just in general, you won't have gone back to any one author enough times for them to become a favorite.
Right.
Well, that's fascinating. That is just fascinating.
I would agree with that, because I've read a lot of. I'm working through Russian literature this year, ironically. Timing just happened the way it did. So I've read maybe half of Dostoevsky's work, half of Tolstoy's work, almost all of Pushkin, almost all of Gogol, but not all. And so I have within the category or the genre, I have favorites, but I couldn't say an ultimate favorite. And I think it's just a limitation of reading amounts that I have done. I think I just need to read more. I think it's kind of what you're saying. It's an accumulation, kind of a slow process of working through.
We got a nomination for Trollope.
Yes.
I'm back on the Trollope train today. I did my my Anthony Trollope read along.
Oh, Hardy, Thomas Hardy. That's a favorite of mine. Or like of mine.
And I think we can answer that. I mean, I guess 0 books really, but two collections of his works. Would you say, Steve? There's only 2, isn't there?
What are we talking about here? Oh, how many books by Homer?
Homer?
The two epics and the Homeric hymns.
Haven't read the hymns yet.
They're not really books by him, are they?
Did you say?
I did.
Haven't read.
I haven't read the hymns yet.
You're cancelled, Micah.
I am. 25 minutes into my streaming career and I'm canceled.
Oh my god!
On my channel.
BookTube's newest star hasn't read Homer.
No. I read Homer. I read the Odyssey. I haven't read all of his works though. But I read him.
You read the Odyssey?
Yeah, I read the Odyssey and the Iliad.
Oh well, it's okay. You can skip the Homeric hymns. Nobody reads the Homeric.
So I haven't completed all of his works, but I have read him most certainly.
Somebody sent me a box set of the Peter Green. Very nice that somebody did this. I couldn't believe it. People are so generous.
I was looking at that.
This is the thing, though.
Set the other day, actually.
Which translation do you go with?
Well, entirely depends on what you want, out of it. I mean, the Penguin does a translation in prose, paragraphs and chapters, so you can read it like it was a Dickens novel. And so it's actually a very good translation.
That's not Fagles, though, is it?
No. Fagles is a little bit more jazzy. He cuts the rhythm a lot. He cuts the line lengths a lot in order to make it jazzy, to give it a kind of a Hollywood pace to it. And the feature of Peter Green's is that he does a fairly standard, translation, but he keeps up a running commentary on the whole thing in his notes. And the commentary is fantastic. It's hilarious. So
I want to go back and read that version. I've only read the Fagles translation.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of these when I reviewed, I think, the Iliad that he did, and then I didn't know what to make of at the time. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've gone back and read bits and pieces, the more I've loved it as an approach. It's not a Homer that you would give to somebody who's never read Homer. I don't think. They'd be mighty confused. They'd be pulled in both directions, Homer and him and Peter Green. I don't think that would work very well.
What happened to the one? Did you actually finish it? You got a new translation, I think, within the last year, and you read the first 2 lines, and it's something like, "Hey, dudes, the dudes are doing this and stuff like this," and it's like,
yeah.
Did you finish reading it?
Oh yeah, I did. And it's not like I think that Homer is some sort of sacred thing that you have to approach in high church language. Robert Logue's books on his adaptational translations of Homer are great, and they have helicopters and technology. The warriors it's all weird and strange. It's just wonderful. Yes, Green's translated a lot of stuff. I don't particularly like his Herodotus, and I think I'm supposed to. But look at all these backgrounds. I'm the only person. Well, no, Mark and I don't have books in the background.
I do just
Mark's
a little bit.
He's got a little bit
on
of
the desk
there.
I've got a few. I don't have any.
No.
I've got a miniature schnauzer patrolling the street and an Alex Ross painting of Superman.
Well, Sean wins anyway, doesn't he? So.
Oh, absolutely, every time.
Well, I don't know. Micah's is custom built.
True.
If you were to go away to some apartment or something or other, it would look strange to see any background other than that. To see this nun's wimple of books arranged around the top of your head. That's just
yeah.
Sorry.
It's I can't leave now. I have my image.
Oh, Ingrid Fitz nominates Joyce Carol Oates, but that would take a lifetime. Actually, Sean, you're going to need a lifetime to read H.G. Wells.
Just fiction. Yeah, it's not
Just
going
going to do
to.
the fiction.
Yeah, not going to touch the nonfiction, and it's just something to do occasionally. It's not going to be a continuous thing. I might jump ahead a little bit, but yeah.
Oh, actually, Alexis has quite a good question. Maybe here we go. Since we're still in Garb August, what bad author would you do a read through of?
Well, Sax Romer has already come up.
I have no problem with that.
No, you might be a fan. I actually am myself, but you couldn't possibly argue with that. Right? He's not a good author. He's just really fun to read.
But that's the thing. A lot of the fun ones aren't necessarily known for their, the quality of their writing. Maybe.
Right. Right. I just reread a Lynn Carter Thongor fantasy. I swear it made me want to read all of Lynn Carter, and that would be a huge undertaking. That was a huge amount of stuff.
When you held up Amish vampires in space, I have to get that. I have to read that just from the
Amish vampires in space.
Vampires in space, which I read for Garb August, and I actually thought it would be the most unspeakable garbage thing that I read in the whole month, and I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. I embarked on a series of shifter romance novels in which the main character shifts into all sorts of things, then not just werewolves. And I read the first two. I talked about the first two in a video, but then I couldn't resist one of the later ones in the series. The shifter is an otter shifter.
An otter.
Yes. And
why not?
The first couple of books in the series, the shifting and the light, psalm of bestiality were sort of kept in control. And the first two books, I was wondering, well, okay, but if you're going to do this, sooner or later, you're going to have one of these characters shift in mid-coitus, in which case the line between the sexy part and the bestiality part will be blurred. And sure enough, it was the otter book where so I don't know that my Garb August can get any garbager than that.
I wouldn't say so.
They're not entirely cute and cuddly when you meet them in the wild. I don't know.
No, they're not.
I've met a sea otter in the wild on the open water, and they're big. They're not these cute, cuddly little toys. They're big. They're 5 feet long.
There was an incident in Singapore. I think it was last year or a couple of years ago. They have a park where they have all these otters, and they literally were terrorizing the place. They were attacking dogs. They were attacking people jogging. So
yeah. People who haven't spent a lot of time on the open ocean, they always think about sharks. But believe me, if you're on the water, like in a kayak or a canoe, you don't want to meet an elephant seal either. The males are 10 feet long, and they're extremely aggressive. A shark, even a big great white, if you slap the water or make an odd noise, they'll usually just dart away. But mammals don't do that. Mammals don't ever do that. I know whether it's a sea lion on the open ocean or a bear in the woods, they usually don't do that. They're on more even terrain with you. A black bear will sometimes scoot away from you if you encounter it in the wild, but a grizzly bear, no. No, almost certainly not.
Sean, did you encounter any bears in the Canadian wilderness when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you wrestle them with your bare hands? And
what's the what is it? Davy Crockett song?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was the inspiration for it.
What I want to know, if we're talking about Sean's animal adventures, I want to know about your adventures with camels. Those iniquitous, horrible beasts.
I've been spitting on, and
oh my God,
almost
they spit like crazy. They spit like crazy, and it's not your sister spitting on you. It's like having a bucket of something dumped over your head.
Yeah,
and they'll take a bite out of you if they can get anywhere near you. They will. So that happened to you?
Yeah, I was actually bit, but not. I moved quick enough to just get nipped, basically. And I also moved quick enough to not get kicked as well.
When I was traveling, there were many, well, you already know, there are many circumstances in which they're unavoidable. You have to use them. And they don't like that. They don't like that at all. You can't ever take them for granted the way you can with, for instance, a burro. A burro, you can largely take them for granted. Yaks, you can largely take for granted, but camels, they're just waiting for an opportunity to
well, the thing is too, they could turn their heads enough, and you can be riding them, and they'll spit on you.
Yeah.
While they're basically in mid trot.
Yeah. I guess I can't hold it entirely against them. I'm a big opponent of riding other people. Against their will. I never know what to say when a friend of mine says, "Hey, we're going to the horse racing track. Want to come with us?" I always want to say the horses aren't doing it voluntarily, so why would I want to go? But even so,
But I think llamas spit as well, don't they?
I think they do.
Yeah, they do. But llamas mostly want to keep to themselves. They mostly don't want trouble unless they're getting trouble from you. Camels are always in a bad mood, and they will take it out on you. They want to. I've only ever had one experience with Bactrian camels, with the two-humped kinds, and it was just fine. But oh my God.
Well, Sonia used to work. Well, I don't know if she worked or just volunteered, but in a parrot sanctuary. So she used to help look after orphan parrots and things like that, and used to foster them and things. So yeah, so that's probably why she ended up in that situation.
I've heard that macaws are incredibly intelligent.
Yeah.
I know that about ravens. A friend of mine had a raven that lived in her house.
No way.
Your friend was Edgar Allan Poe, was it? I mean, I knew you were getting on, Steve, but really?
we sat down to dinner, and the raven came over to the table and was just walking between the diners, just casually walking between the diners, not trying to poach food, just walking up to see.
Enjoying your meal, madam. How are you this evening, sir?
Almost what it seemed like. And I swear, when people were talking, I got the distinct impression that raven was understanding everything.
Well, you just look at the Tower of London. You got a Raven Master there,
There we go.
It's true.
That's all I'm thinking about. The Tower of London is all I'm thinking about now that I'm reading so much Tudor stuff. Thinking about Thomas More being kept there, and then Thomas Cromwell being kept there. The man who put More there was then kept there. And both More and Cromwell, when they were kept in the tower 10 years apart. And when in both cases, they were in the tower during the summer when it was roasting hot. And I'm trying to remember from the times when I visited the tower, whether or not you even feel that in the upper chambers. I think you do.
It's been a long time since I was in prison in the tower. I can't remember.
I always stayed on Catherine Parr's good side, and that usually managed to do the trick. It was boy, oh boy, if you ever saw anyone who could adroitly avoid trouble, it was Catherine Parr. Oh my God.
I've been in trouble talking about my one I should say incarceration. I'm not talking about anymore.
Catherine Parr was married to a man who was arraigned on charges that would certainly have had him imprisoned and maybe killed for massive amounts of embezzlement, and he died before he could be tried and before he could implicate her. She went on to marry another man who was implicated in an uprising against King Henry VIII. And she divorced him before he could get killed. And then she marries Henry VIII. And she was a reformer in the church. He was swinging, his pendulum was swinging, so they didn't like reform. And he had guards coming to the room where she was to arrest her for yet another beheading when she said the right things and got out of jail free, literally. Where he said, "Oh, we're friends again."
Remarkable.
Nobody could escape trouble like she could.
She was a survivor.
Well, yes, until childbirth, which is what did it.
Right.
Until she gave birth to a child and died of
She was
puerperal
getting
fever.
on as well, though, for the time, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Couldn't have
Yeah,
helped. I
but-
suppose.
Wait, do we have a comment about Lonesome Dove?
Yeah, Peter asked if all of us read it.
I'm guessing that Micah has not.
I started it.
I haven't read it.
For something else.
I haven't.
I'm sorry, Steve. I'm
You
gonna read
started
again.
it and didn't finish it?
No. It wasn't an intentional didn't finish. It was more of a excited, a hasty start when I had other projects going.
Don't
And
worry, Mike.
Sean-
When you get older, these things become easier.
There we go.
These premature.
Sean and Mark have
problems.
not read it.
No. Well, I read Dead Man Walking, Dead Man's Walk, the first one. I want to read. I know you don't have to read them in order, but I thought I will. So
The others aren't good.
I quite enjoyed it. But you see, you might be comparing it only because you've read, Lonesome Dove first, and then thinking, it's not very good. Whereas my first Larry McMurtry was this one, and I thought, it's all right.
Ugh.
Oh,
Oh.
there's a big commotion outside. There's like maybe 3 dogs barking at each other, so he wants to get in on the act. So
I don't think he's going to set Frida off. She hasn't really cared about much today. She's been pretty laid back all day. And I've been told by the Schnauzer community online that she's just going to get more and more laid back. Oh.
Elvis, he's in his own world.
It's all right. Look at that big plume of a tail. Good Lord, he must shed like crazy.
Oh, he really does. I was thinking today, I was like, didn't I just hoover the other day? It's like a pile of stuff. I'm thinking, oh, Christ. Yeah, that's why I'm really looking forward to, getting a garden, because he can probably do most of his shedding out there. So, and I'm never having non-leather sofas again as well. So, dear, oh dear.
What
no,
process that must be to have a house built.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I haven't actually done much yet. I've relied on the kindness of, I won't say strangers, of course, but friends.
So many people that I know are that is a goal of theirs, is to have a house. I just don't get that.
A goal to have a house?
Yeah, it's so much space. It's so much more space than a person needs.
Well, I mean, to be fair, my house will probably be about the size of the apartment I live in. It's not going to be very big. It's a 2-bedroom bungalow with a small attic room. I was telling Mike and Sean about it earlier at the top, but that's it. The garden, on the other hand, is going to be massive, but so
I wanted to have some gardening done here, but it turns out, predictably enough, that I am far more interested in reading about gardening than I am in actually gardening. But I could have had a garden put in anyway. It's just, I don't think it would be well upkept. Mm-hmm. And that feels wrong. I would like to be able to grow all of my own food. And I have enough room here. I have enough land here to do that.
Mm.
I just, sorry, I just don't do it. But everybody should.
I'm going to get a couple of sheep as well.
Are you indeed?
Oh, fabulous.
Cut the grass, and I think it'll be fun for Elvis because it's his nature, and I think he needs a couple of sheep to kind of harass. So it will be fun.
Absolutely.
Don't have to cut the lawn, so it'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, it will be quite big for just me. I mean, the other houses and things on the plots. There were 4 plots sold, kind of in a group. They're all families of 3, 4, 5 people, and this is just going to be me. So
almost all the young Americans that I know want to have a house, a big house. Micah probably does.
Frankly, I want something smaller. It's ironic you would say that. I don't want a big house if I'm living alone. Too much space.
Yeah, but you're young, that you probably, of course, won't end up living alone. Maybe.
Who is he in this chat with?
Actually, I just thought you're in there. Well, get out, Micah. Get out while you still can. Get out. Save yourself.
I was going to bring it up, but Steve got it out there first.
So you're lucky you get a glimpse into your future, I suppose.
Exactly. Exactly.
What are you doing?
I just got here a little sooner.
Oh, off she goes. Oh, someone must be coming here. I must be getting. It might be time for me to go.
Oh man.
That's got to be
Tiny
it.
houses. Tiny
Oh,
houses.
yeah.
Yeah. What's his name?
Matthew Mayberry Book Club. Oh, I love his bookshelves.
Yeah. Literally had his tiny house built with his bookcases to order.
It's beautiful.
He knew that he wanted to fill. Usually, you watch tiny house tours on YouTube. The last thing those people want is even a small amount of space for books. Barely any.
Yeah,
Well,
it's built around his bookshelves.
Yeah. Yeah, he managed
that.
to fit a full-size library into something that's tiny, smaller than this room.
Mm.
I mean, how big is his house then? I mean, what makes it a tiny house?
Has he ever told you what the dimensions are, Steve?
I wouldn't. I'm sure he has, but I wouldn't remember the dimensions.
I'm sure he's mentioned it in one of his tiny house tour videos. I just can't remember it off the top
It's
of my head.
perfect for me, except for the bugaboo of tiny houses is the same thing as the bugaboo of boat living or channel boat living, and that is the toilet. The toilet is the bugaboo. That's also the same thing with van life. I've watched a million videos on all of those kinds of alternate living, and they all seem like fun, except for the toilet.
If you did a tiny house, but if you rigged it where it was more of a permanent residence, you could get away with proper modern plumbing. Like you wouldn't have to do a compostable toilet. Didn't they just do that to keep it mobile, similar to a trailer? If I'm thinking right. But if you just parked it in one spot,
I thought they I thought that wasn't true, though. I've seen plenty of tiny house tours where the house was settled in one place. It didn't have wheels on it, and it still had one of those composite slot toilets.
I wonder if that's more a decision of the builders versus being not possible.
I always got the impression that it was an attraction of tiny houses that you weren't. They didn't obligate you to all the kinds of real estate and
that would make sense.
Zoning taxes that you would otherwise pay. It's just this tiny little thing that you plunk down in a field somewhere. And the only way that you would, I mean, the thing that would lay you open to those charges would be if you were starting to use municipal sewage, municipal pipes or power lines or whatnot.
Right.
You could be right. All I know is that I watch a ton of those tour videos, and it always makes me chuckle when the hose gets around to the toilet. They all end up saying, whether it's on a narrow boat or a yacht or a tiny house, they all say a variation of the same thing. They sort of clear their throat uncomfortably and say, "Yeah, the smell's not that noticeable."
Yeah,
I don't believe.
We've got to have the whole septic tank thing put in, because obviously in the villages up there's no main sewage or anything like that.
Well,
but my plan is just to use the school. I mean, I'll literally be 30 seconds walk from where I work. So I have a key, and every time I need to go, I'll just pop into school, even if it's the weekend, summer holidays. There you go.
Mobile homes have tanks. They flush a toilet. They use a lot less water, but they flush it, and then they empty the tank.
Yes, your gray water
thing. A tiny home.
That's how my family has a little pull behind trailer camper, and it has the black and gray water tank. And so it's not a compostable toilet. It's more like the tank, like Sean's mentioning. But we never had any trouble with that.
Where do you empty?
That's better in some ways than the compostable thing, like you're saying, Steve.
Where do you empty such things? I mean, the only time I've ever seen one emptied is what's his name, Randy Quaid in Christmas Vacation. Shitter's full.
That's not the way to do it. Campgrounds will have what they call dump stations, which are just hooked up to. Literally, it's called the dump station, and it's hooked up to a sewage to a sewage line.
Yeah.
And you hook up a tube from the tank on your trailer into the septic tank, and then you just open the valve. And
well, if you're just joining us, anybody, we are literally sitting here talking shit. So
yeah.
Well, like you talk about compostable is bad. Well, when you had to go out when it's 40 below Fahrenheit and walk a long ways to an outhouse and freeze your butt off, a combustible toilet is luxury.
Yes.
What's an outhouse?
It's if you haven't experienced it, your imagination will not supply the right details. It's wild. I've experienced it many times, and
I've only had to do it. There was 1 week my dad and I did a 7-day hike. That was the only time that I've had to deal with something like that. Other than that, I've been very spoiled.
I've dealt with all the nightmares that you could think of when it comes to outhouses, especially in sub-Saharan Africa.
Oh,
there's no feeling worse than going to an outhouse at night. Maybe you're a tiny bit drunk, and you're sitting there, and you hear something big that is slithering. So something big, but that doesn't have legs.
I thought that would have been an excitement, Steve. No,
nearby. That's really bad. Also, to be in that same position and hear something moving outside on big, heavy feet. 4 of them. So you know it's not a human being. And
it's
you know
camel.
outside.
Oh, those camels, eh, Steve? No, I've been quite lucky. I'm not one for that kind of roughing it, really. So, I mean, I've been in a few portaloos, which have been a bit horrific at times, but
it's always Sean can tell you it's always the dramatic bad moments that stick out in your memory when you're looking.
Well, the thing is, when that's all you knew, like if that's all you ever had, and you've never been to anything else or never saw anything else,
well,
is it bad?
Sean seems to have frozen up. There he is.
Yeah, I mean, so do you remember the first time you actually, took a dump in a place with indoor plumbing and luxury and warmth and all that kind of stuff? Is it something
I remember all the worst times? That's
only the worst times. So,
but a bad that I remember. I had a host once in Sudan, I think. Said, yeah, there was kind of an open rectangle of concrete block walls that had a shower running into it. It's kind of an outdoor open shower stall. It was the only one anywhere around. There was no plumbing otherwise. And my host said, yeah, you can go and use that to cool off for the evening. Just be careful, because sometimes we have hyenas that get curious and wander by. And I said, okay, well, I'll leave my dogs with you so that I'm not aggravating the situation, and I'll just be extra careful. And I walked over to this enclosure, around the corner through the door, and there was a hyena in the enclosure, inside the block, just sort of sitting there. So I guess the concrete was nice and cool. It's like, I thought for a minute, well, am I supposed to shower with you in here? I don't really want to.
No.
I meant to ask you, Steve. I heard you mention the traveling with your dogs before. You were talking when we were talking about the campfire and the little bat that fell down, and you were saying like you wouldn't wake up your dogs, but if they got the bat, how easy or how difficult was it to travel to such places with your dogs? I mean, didn't you need because there wouldn't have been pet passports then? Did you need
no, there were no pet
documentation and rabies shots and quarantine or anything like this? Or
as I've mentioned, when I bring up my travels on my channel, I did my best to avoid official border crossings.
Oh, okay.
For a whole bunch of reasons. But mainly because all of the roaring a-holes in the world are magnetically drawn to border crossings. And that's where you meet them. It's bad enough to meet them when they have the power to stop your documentation or send you home. It's much worse to meet them when they have rifles. So I just tried to avoid that at all costs, whether it was slipping $500 American to the captain of some sort of transport vessel. I will go down into a room in the hold and let me know when we get where we're going. Or it was just circumnavigating It was a nightmare. It was harder to do than if I traveled on my own, but it was so much worth it for me. It would have been miserable. I wouldn't have wanted to leave them.
Have you heard of a dog called Antis? There's this dog, a German Shepherd. I read a book on him a couple of years ago. It's called War Dog, and it's by a guy called Damian Lewis, and he's not the actor, but they share the same name. And it's about this Czech pilot in the Second World War who, when he escaped to France, they got shot down, and he found this little puppy, and he was going to kill it, and because it might give away position, so instead, he couldn't do it. He took it with him, and of course, the fall of France, and he had to smuggle the dog into England because the English still wanted to quarantine it and all this stuff. The dog became like a mascot for the RAF group that he was with. It ended up getting shot because it would go up with him. So it was shot with anti-aircraft flak and all this stuff. It got shot by a farmer. It got bombed. All these terrible things happened to it. In the end, the war was over. He went back to Czechoslovakia, took the dog with him. And then, of course, 2 years after that, in the meantime, he got married. He'd had a child. And then the communists took over. And, of course, they were hunting down people who had, fought with the Allies. So he fled Czechoslovakia with the dog again and went back to England, leaving his wife and child behind, but taking the dog. It's a true story.
I can second that decision.
But I always think the fact, takes the dog and leaves his wife and child. I thought, yeah, that's my kind of man.
So can I ask another group question?
Sure.
I asked it last time, but Micah wasn't with us. I'm curious to know. I find myself always curious to know what booktubers do for actually shopping for and buying books, print books. And the last time that came up, Mark just wailed in agony because he has nothing. He has nothing at all.
Pretty much.
And Sean, you said you have a bookstore right near you that you don't go to.
Well, yeah, because I can't get there. Yeah.
Do you have any bookstores that you can get to?
No, I can't get anywhere. I can't go out.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Micah?
I have a couple close to me, about like half an hour away. I use them fairly frequently. I tend to buy most of my books online, used through thrift books mainly, or eBay.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a lot of used bookstores around me. A lot of them are chains. So just Barnes and Noble. We have a chain of Books a Million.
Books a Million, right?
So and then we in downtown Greenville, there are some great stores, but they are so expensive that I just can't feasibly shop there. I can't spend.
So nothing secondhand.
No, not as far as physical stores.
And no book shopping in a physical store often enough so that they know you.
Well, I possibly. So I go at different times, and so like with chains, different employees are working there. The people who know me are my library. The people at my library know me because I'm there the most. Not so much employees at the actual bookstores.
I wonder if this is typical. I wonder if this is more the norm than not, that most people who are on BookTube don't go to bookstores anymore.
Yeah. Well, I try to. I try to go as often as I can. I'm not a huge fan of driving, and so I like limiting my driving. So I'm not, and I'm not in walking distance from things because I'm sort of out in the country a bit. So I like to.
The problem in America, I hear, though, is you really have to drive everywhere, don't you?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I have to drive. We're 30 minutes, basically a 30-minute drive from any form of store or anything really.
I've often heard this about America, but I've managed to get through just fine. 28 years without driving.
You live in New England.
Well, I used to live. I told you this before. I used to live in Rockland, Massachusetts, and we could walk everywhere. We walked everywhere. We never drove. We just walked everywhere we wanted to go. I was like a 2-minute walk from the library. and now it's
It's about right for me. I'm about a 5-minute walk from the Boston Public Library branch
okay.
on my main street, on my high street. I didn't go today, didn't go anywhere today. You see, Gerald Bliss says 99% of his book purchases are online now, and I think that's probably true of most of BookTube.
I think it would have to be.
I wonder, is that the product of the pandemic?
I think that didn't help things.
Well, yeah, for me it is.
Well, for Sean, because Sean has some skin in the game when it comes to the pandemic.
I think for a lot of people it probably was. I know for me, I used to go a lot more frequently, and then when everything shut down, I got into the habit of just not going anywhere, and I got used to just a very limited routine. And then when things started opening again, I just didn't have any want to go back to my old routines. I was comfortable sort of in my 2 years worth of retraining my mind essentially of how things worked. And so I think for me, it's just I've never really readjusted to pre-2020.
I was very grateful when the Brattle reopened.
I'm sure.
Very grateful for that.
When did it close for the full 2-year period?
I don't think so. I don't think they ever actually closed completely, but the travel was extremely discouraged. The sale lot, I don't think, was open.
Oh, okay.
And I'm a creature of the sale lot. I really am a creature of the sale lot. I thought I was going to give that up for this month because subways are so disrupted in Boston. But the interim experience set up by the city is perfectly fine. It takes a little longer, but it's perfectly comfortable.
You said they put out a fleet of buses?
They imported a fleet of luxury buses. They're the kind of thing that you would travel across the country in. So the toilets are all upholstered. They're one of those things where you get to the front door of the bus and you go up.
Okay, yeah.
Into the bus. They're extremely well air conditioned. They also imported the drivers and the assistants in bright neon vests who make eye contact and smile and say good morning and have useful information.
There we go.
None of which is true of the subway's usual employees. None of that is true. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's looking at this substitute and thinking, can we keep it and get rid of the subway system instead?
I have to say, I've never seen that in my 10 years here. Mad Woman in the Attic, she says, a vast amount of book buyings online, apart from secondhand books from charity shops, Oxfam bookstores, are a treasure trove. In 10 years here, I've never seen, I'm sure they have them in Prague, they must do, but I've never seen a secondhand bookshop.
I heard all sorts of vilifications of Oxfam bookshops when they started to really expand about, 6 or 7 years ago? People said this is deadly for our local used secondhand bookstores. But I've heard only great things about them in terms of shopping for books. I don't know if maybe that's because they killed off the competition, so there's nowhere for people to bring their books.
Well, what I found, every one that I've went into, they're all more expensive than the average used bookstore, and the one in Cambridge is 3 times that. It's the most expensive used bookstore I'd ever been in, actually.
So no bargains.
Oh no.
And it's a charity bookshop?
It's an Oxfam bookshop.
Doesn't seem very sensible.
And the one here, they will look on Abe and they'll print out. Well, they don't do it now. They don't put it in. So somebody must have said something. But they used to print out the page on Abe. You'll see the price of a book for that for a penny, and then up to 100 pounds, and then so they'd put it at like 45, and regardless of the condition, they would put it middle of that. And so many books I'd see in there, and I go, this is not worth £2, and you've got 20 on it.
Oh my!
Yeah.
That's strange. That they're much more expensive. That's weird. I did not. That's the one element I never heard about them.
Yeah,
and especially you think when they get the books for free as well.
Yeah.
I guess they're paying rent in England, which of course is gonna.
No, they don't. They pay no rent. They pay no rent whatsoever.
I'm familiar with the. There's a charity shop
That's what I was told.
chain in New York City, Housing Works. They're an AIDS charity, and they got so many books that they didn't even keep them as a book section in their shops. They made a whole bookstore of their own. But the prices were really reasonable. they weren't jacked up.
Well, see, the thing with Oxfam is that, yeah, people, you see it as a charity, but they pay everybody that's working there. And from what I understand, I've been told that they don't pay rent. But, like, you know, I've talked to other booksellers, and they say, like, people think that they're donating to charity. But if they went to a bookshop, they would get more money than they would go to charity, and then they could donate that money to charity. There is some sense to that.
I worked in Oxfam for a year or so when I was at school, at boarding
And
school.
you got paid for it, right?
No, because at my boarding school we had a choice. You could either join the army or the cadet service, or do what they called community service. So I chose community service, and I was sent off to Oxfam, which was actually the best gig to get. The other one was like helping elderly people in their house, you know, helping little kids in school and that kind of stuff. But working in Oxfam was great because you got to go to the town, and of course it was like, if you can imagine in prison, the person who kind of gets things for everybody else, because we're in a boarding school, right? So, you know, it was great. We would turn up there. Usually we would somehow manage to leave early. We'd go and do some shopping. We'd buy all the cigarettes and stuff that, you know, the kids gave orders for at school and take them back. But the job itself was pretty much sorting all the donations and stuff that came in, which was pretty horrible, actually, because sometimes people didn't wash stuff before they sent it in, or sent it in manky, disgusting. And of course, you'd have your gloves on, you go through these bags of clothes and be like, is this one okay to put on the shelves? Destroy it immediately. So, yeah.
I spent some time in the basement of Housing Works in New York with the boxes of unsorted books, and it was so much fun. Oh, my.
I'm sure.
I could have done that I wouldn't have got any work done if I had been on the staff. I was just a guest of someone who worked there. But it was so much fun to open every box and wonder what's in there. Could be anything, literally anything.
Yeah,
they let us take the stuff. Oh, sorry, Sean.
No, I was just going to say, for a short time, I won't name the place, but I managed here in the UK for a very short period a charity bookshop. And what they were doing, the previous, they weren't getting very many sales. The previous manager was sort of taking a book that you could put, say, 5 or 10 pounds on, and they were putting 50p on it. And a book that was worth 50p, they would put 10 pounds on it. It was completely opposite because they knew nothing about books. So I started going in there, and when I took over, I changed all the prices. And so I started getting a heck more sales, because if it was worth 10 pounds, I'd put like 6 or 7 on it or something like that, rather than 50p. And then the ones that were too expensive, I put them for a pound or whatever, and they sold. So you can just sort of see you're cleaning out more stock. And I was asked to leave. I more than tripled in the first month of me being in there, of the highest sales that place had ever had before. And then I was asked to leave.
Why?
That's the big question. They just said because within the first month, they with my contract, they didn't have to have a reason, and they would not give me a reason. So I kind of think that there must have been something maybe a little shady going on there.
In the pricing. Yeah.
Yeah, probably money laundering or something. What was the place so we can avoid it?
As I say, I'm not saying the place.
I do indeed own over 1,000 books, physical printed books. I do indeed. And I don't want to. I don't want to at all. And it seems like the gods want me to, because every time I go outside, I find a bookcase. Bookcases are expensive. Ones that are in good condition, ones that are strong and not plywood or particle board, they're expensive to get.
Oh, yeah.
So when I find one, you know, within walking distance, just free on the sidewalk, I'm going to take it. But I just found another one that I'm going to clean up. There's a lot of open space here. There's a lot of open shelf space. I didn't have it in me to leave it on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, what would happen if nobody took it and it just went to the garbage dump and got ripped apart by a machine?
And Micah, what about you? How many would you say you have? Have you counted?
Yeah, how many of your books are we not seeing?
I actually cataloged yesterday. I got the app library thing for scanning all my books.
Right, you can scan your books.
Yeah, because I didn't have any counts anywhere.
Will library thing only work with books that have ISBNs?
Yes.
Sean, you're out of luck, aren't you? You couldn't.
I started on there, and I had a stack of 50 books, and I put them in, and I couldn't find any reference to them.
Yeah,
yes,
it won't work. It won't, You can sometimes search by title, but I think it's mainly ISBN.
Yeah, I couldn't find any of them. So I would have had to enter all the information in myself, and I go, I can do that myself on my own program, and I don't need to get on the internet to do it.
Right, exactly. This is my primary bookcase, but I have one other bookcase on the other side of my room that has like maybe 150. But this one behind me here is a little over 400. I think it's 420, something like that.
So 600 books?
600 books total. Physical. And then probably 100 on my Kindle.
They're not real books.
We won't get into that. No.
I think I must have over 7,000 or 8,000 books on my Kindles, my iPads.
I've definitely started purchasing more ebooks than physical books lately.
I have around 23,000, I think, ebooks.
Yeah.
23,000?
They're just so convenient.
Well, yeah.
They are. I have a whole bunch of people who send me ebooks. So otherwise I don't think I would have that many. Although Project Gutenberg alone.
Oh, I love Project.
Oh, that's a lot of it is free stuff.
It's amazing.
Send as much as I can over. Yeah.
I mean, there's no way I spent money on 23,000 ebooks.
I think I still have a disc somewhere. Before I came to England here, you were able to download the complete Project Gutenberg, and I still got that somewhere. But they've added so much more.
You couldn't do that now.
Yeah, no.
It's tons and tons of things. But I want to decrease the size of my physical library. I want to decrease it. I do not want to increase it. I do not want to keep finding bookcases. I'm perfectly happy with my ebook collection.
Yeah.
Although I lost a whole ebook collection, which is really annoying.
Is that when was that the Nook app?
The Nook app.
You lost everything on?
The Nook app on one particular iPad needed to be updated, and I kind of knew that. And I guess I just waited too long, and it simply refused to open. I didn't have a backdoor chance to update it at the time. And that's alarming. I mean, it was just sitting there on my desktop, and I didn't want it to sit on the desktop just taunting me, but the only way to open it was to re-download it. Eliminate it, and then re-download it. And if you do that, all your side-loaded stuff is gone. And I have a lot of that side-loaded stuff, but I haven't wanted to take the time to move it over to that, because what if it disappears again?
I want to say to the mad woman in the attic that this is green screen, and I'm sitting in an empty, huge auditorium.
Well, Mark's the one with the cool background. Mark has those Art Deco circles.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
They honestly do look like something you would see that that a big booktuber with 200,000 subscribers would have bought.
Right.
To put there. They honestly do look that way.
Well, the thing is, it came about because of COVID. When I was doing online lessons, I gave homework to the kids to make a video showing around their room or around their house, right? And so I gave mine as an example. And my colleagues felt so sorry for me that my walls were so bare and I lived such a bachelor lifestyle. They actually came. I didn't have curtains. I lived for 8 years or 7 years or whatever without curtains because I just didn't need them. I didn't care who could see me. And I'm in the middle of town, literally on Main Street, right? And there's a five-star hotel over the road. Didn't
Are
give him
any of us actually corrupting Micah? Should he be here? starting to wonder about this.
So they did it. Yeah, they did that. They put the curtains up. They did a few other things. They made some cushions for me and stuff. It was very nice of them. So when I turned 40, so
Looks great. It's a nice.
yeah, it does. When I see it now, I think it does look really good. Yeah.
I hope I never turn 40.
It will catch up
You
with you,
still have a
Steve,
long
one
time
day
till
before you know
40.
it.
Sounds
You're only
horrific.
29. You have time.
See, anytime I see a blank wall, I'm thinking nice bookcases can fit in there.
It amazes me. I see that on house tours on YouTube, or even some house tours by booktubers. And there's vast amounts of open wall space. What on earth are you doing? That's made for books. Why is that empty?
And I was going to say, Mark, when you build a house, you don't need interior walls. You build bookcases. Those are your walls. It saves space. It saves so much space.
Yeah.
If you build them strong enough, that should work.
Yeah.
What's this? Thoughts on the novel Jaws by Peter Benchley? I really like it. I think it's really, really good.
I haven't read it yet. I really want to.
I haven't either.
I'm in the minority in thinking that Hank Searle's novelization of the sequel, Jaws 2, is almost as good.
Somebody was talking about that yesterday or today.
Well, the thing that people don't realize about Hank Searle's Jaws 2, the novel, is that it's a sequel to Peter Benchley's book, Jaws, not a sequel to the movie. And in Peter Benchley's book, there's a lot of other stuff going on that doesn't make it into the movie. So you have a sequel there, But I thought the book was really, really good. There are some moments in it that cannot really be filmed. I say that very cautiously because I'm more and more impressed with how much can be filmed. But there are some moments in the book that you can't transfer to film. And I value when a book does that. I really do. The famous opening of Jaws the movie is the poor naked woman swimming at dawn, and she's attacked by a shark. Her friend is drunk on the beach. He doesn't hear her. No one in the houses is awake yet. They can't hear her. She's all alone, being ripped apart by this thing under the water. And that is a very, very effective opening to the movie. And it's the same opening as in the book. But in the book, before she's attacked, this enormous shark, 25 feet long, rockets past her, about 10 feet below her, in this night black water. And the passage of the shark causes a swell. She rises up and down on the water just briefly, but it's not part of the tide. And it starts the process of alarming her. It's definitely not natural. She isn't thinking about a shark. And you couldn't film that. That moment, that is an internal thing. It's a weird moment. I don't think you could film it. And there's a great moment at the climax of the first part of the book where Brody looks out to the ocean and has an amazing moment where he realizes that all of this stuff that's suddenly happening with real estate, with infidelity, with the mob, with his job, that all of this stuff is being caused by an unthinking fish somewhere out there in the ocean. And you couldn't film that. It would have to be some dumb sententious monologue if you were going to do it. You couldn't film it otherwise. You could film
the movement with CGI. You could actually now do it with CGI.
I don't know that CGI would capture how ominous it is, though. It's a really ominous moment.
That's where you get good.
CGI is so ham-handed.
That's where you need a Bernard Herrmann to in there to do the music, or Miklos Schroja.
The 3 ages of man. What is that supposed to mean? Micah, I might remind you, is only a few years younger than I am.
I was gonna say we're pretty close in age.
We are 4 people, so maybe the 2 of you are just the same age.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Whereas you and Sean are just living cautionary tales.
Living fossils and Neanderthals and whatnot. Yeah. Yeah, the sharks eat themselves. What is that?
They do indeed. They do indeed. Big sharks prey on little sharks all the time. Yep.
Oh, there's one for Steve here. Steve, if your garbage picking bookcases, your subliminal mind is planning on increasing your stock. You see,
Could very well be. It could very well be. I take them in, then I clean them, and then I figure out where they're going to go. And right now, the one that I just found, it's a really solid, nice thing. It's got tall shelves so that books of almost any size will fit on it. And I just have to figure out where it's going to go. And I think it's going to have to be, something's going to have to be stacked on top of it. There isn't any open wall space, really. I've been pretty good about that.
Well, like to paraphrase a phrase, an empty shell, a book collector abhors an empty shelf.
The main piece of physical book that I am wondering about is the new 1-volume paperback Lord of the Rings with the Rings of Power cover art. There's a massive online campaign to tell people don't buy any Rings of Power stuff. Don't support the show at all because it's taking such enormous liberties with Lord of the Rings that the fans they want it to fail.
Right.
So there's this enormous campaign. Don't buy any of that stuff. Don't buy any of the merchandise. And of course, cancel your subscription to Amazon so that you're not giving them money. But a new Lord of the Rings 1 volume, I don't know that I'm going to be able to resist that.
I know.
Yeah, but you've got the big, the new hardcover. Like I was sent the new hardcover. Yeah.
No, I don't.
You got rid of it?
No, I gave it away. There was a girl who was working at the Prattle 2 years ago or a year ago, whenever it was, and she was a big Lord of the Rings fan. And we got to talking, and she said, I know all about this new edition, but I just can't afford it. I can't justify spending the money. And I gave it to her. I just gave it to her.
There you go.
And Houghton Mifflin has a companion volume for the Silmarillion coming out next month. Big, beautiful thing. Same thing as that Lord of the Rings. It'll have beautiful end papers and die-cut pages and all of Alan Lee's artwork and all of that. Probably a lot of Alan Lee sketches in black and white in between. And I emailed the publicist and said, I'd love you to send me that. And she said, well, I will if I can. It's very limited copies. And I smiled and nodded. What I wanted to say was, you said the same thing about that Lord of the Rings. And I got it, and I made a video about it, and I wrote a review of it, and I'm sure I sold you probably 150 copies of a $60 book. So you do this again, I will do that again.
Did they do a Hobbit as well, or not?
Not in this set, no. I'm the Lord of the Rings, the Tolkien stuff that's coming up is a new illustrated hardcover of The Fall of Numenor and this new Silmarillion. I don't think that's any coincidence. I think they're doing that because, those books are very firmly ensconced in the Second Age.
Right.
Although what the show has to do with the Second Age, I don't know. I have no idea. There are no hobbits in the Second Age. I don't care if you call them Harfoots. There's still hobbits, and there are no hobbits. There are no Harfoots in the Second Age.
Right.
Galadriel is not an armor-wearing warrior woman in the Second or any other age.
Right.
And there are no wizards. And it's pretty clear to me that the bearded guy in the latest trailer is a wizard.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that? I don't know.
I don't know why people have to mess with all these things. It does really frustrate me.
Well,
I don't understand it either.
I mean, Amazon has the rights to the appendices of the Lord of the Rings. They don't have the right to anything in the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
And they don't have the rights to anything in the Lord of the Rings. Just the appendices. That's what they made a deal for.
Interesting.
And there are stories you could do from those appendices without doing much violence to the work. There's a lot that's legitimately not there. So the showrunners might have looked at that and thought, well, we can add a lot of stuff here. We can invent a lot of stuff. But it's clear they're not just doing that. They're also reinventing. And that's a bright white line. Fans of the show are okay with you inventing things, but they don't want you to reinvent things. They know what Tolkien wrote better than any other fandom. They know what Tolkien wrote. And it isn't this. We know already. I mean, it's still a week until this thing shows up, but we know already this is not it. So And the latest gossip in the latest trailer, Galadriel is talking. She's in her armor with her sword, and she's talking with this himbo with sort of Aragorn-esque hair, and the stubble on his face and whatnot. She's talking to him about how, you make your own destiny, all the dumb, vague stuff that's in all of the trailers. And the rumor is, fans are wondering, because there's an invented man called Halbard, and the guy in that scene is not him. So fans were wondering, all right, well, who's she having this heart-to-heart talk with? And the industry speculation, the industry rumor is that man is Sauron. Just if that ends up being true, I still want the hardcover. I still want the one volume.
Are you going to watch it though?
Those posters of the hands holding swords with rings on the fingers, that's good enough for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Are you going to watch it though, Steve, when it comes out?
Oh yeah. I've had probably 100 requests from people saying, "Will you not only watch it but talk about it?" I've emailed back to people and said, I'm not a movie channel. And they say it's made from a book. It's made from a book that you love. I don't know. I will certainly watch it, but I know already what I'm going to get. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind what I'm going to get. None. All of the major beats of the action in every episode for every season that it airs, all of those major beats of action will be driven by women. All of those major action beats will be about women. And the only characters who have three-dimensional reactions to anything will be women. As opposed to 50-50, it'll be 100%. And, I mean, I've seen this before, right? I saw this with the Black Widow movie and a million other franchises that this has been done to, where the showrunners only care about the Bechdel test, and that's it. I don't care about anything else.
And Sean, you obviously do book to film. We've done quite a few of those. Have you ever done a television series? Like,
not yet.
Been on a book and put it into. Yet. Have you got one in mind?
Well, quite a few. When I was doing the big books, I was thinking of. I did Bleak House, and I thought I'd do like the BBC versions and watch them through, and the other ones because there's Middlemarch. I was going to do all the, and I was going to watch all the versions, but sort of things turned not too good in March. March was a write-off.
And actually, what about Les Miserables? Did anyone do a series of that, or has it only been filmed?
Can the movie be topped?
Well, I don't know, because
I don't think so.
The French did a fantastic
top Russell Crowe doing his own singing.
The French did a fantastic, I think, series of Count of Monte Cristo with Gérard Depardieu that I always enjoyed. Though I did watch it before I read the book. But I wonder about Les Mis if they did a series of it.
Well, they did there's Gérard Depardieu is playing Jean Valjean in a film. But it's a film,
not a series.
I don't think it might have been on TV originally. I'm not sure, but not.
Well, there is a BBC series, isn't there?
Les Miserables?
I thought so. Thought there was one that came out maybe a couple years ago.
Oh yes, there is. Yes, yeah, that was an abomination. But
it didn't do well.
Yeah, but one of the best versions of it is from 1919. It was a serial that was played over weeks, and it's like 6.5 or 7 hours long. And I finally got to see it in London about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, in the cinema with piano accompaniment. It was fabulous.
I can only talk about the stage show, the Cameron McIntosh stage show, which I saw on Broadway a million times. But that was.
I've only seen it once, live, but.
Oh, was it miniseries? Ah, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure because I've seen it on TV, but I didn't know whether it's a really good version of it. It's a very good version.
I think they've done some good. I really enjoyed the Monte Cristo one they did with him. So
I like him.
I like him a lot.
The only Monte Cristo that I seen was with Richard Chamberlain. That's the only one that I've seen.
Oh no, this one's from the 80s, but it's worth it. It's worth watching. In French, of course, but that's no problem for Steve. So
No, if I can stand Les Miserables in whatever language it was in the Cameron McIntosh Broadway musical, I don't know what that was. But if I can translate from that, I can translate from anything. Boy, though, I was humming songs at the end of it, though. That was Roger and Hammerstein always used to say, "Don't tell me about box office. Tell me about whether or not people are humming the songs when they walk out of the theater."
Yeah.
I just don't know how they can do it as a musical. I want to. I finally decided I do want to watch it sometime. I'll never see it live, but I do want to watch it. But I just couldn't. And the scenes that I saw of the sort of the barricades of the street, and I seen scenes, and I just burst out laughing. It was just so ludicrous. I thought. I just couldn't get it. I just couldn't get it. But I do want to watch it now because I am interested in all the versions. But I'm not too sure I'll watch the BBC one that was recently because
I wonder what Hugo himself would have thought about it being a musical.
He would have laughed, I think.
The impression I get is that he would have been much more concerned with the box office gross.
Yeah,
he would have been very, very happy with the fact.
Did it make money? No.
Les Miserables made $2 million a week on Broadway.
Yeah, but no, it was. Yeah, did it make money? Yeah. Oh, it's fabulous.
Yeah, Les Miserables on Broadway was it, and Phantom ushered in this era where ordinary people with ordinary jobs can't afford to go to Broadway shows. I was right on the cusp of that. I used to go to Broadway shows, 2 or 3 a weekend, every weekend.
Well, for Phantom, I just cannot. I could never watch it with a certain actor in it.
Frank Spencer.
Yes, there's no way I could ever. I'm sorry, I just cannot.
Michael Crawford, yeah.
Yeah, I just could not do it.
It is so bizarre, but it shows his versatility, I suppose. Really.
Oh yeah. No, I'm sure he does it well, but it's just I can't separate Frank Spencer from that. And while just an added thing, they filmed the outside scenes of Some Mothers Do Have Them here. And they go down the street here occasionally.
I like gimmicks when it comes to my Broadway shows. If it has a good gimmick, I'm probably on board with it.
Cats, then. Did you like Cats?
No, because Cats doesn't really have one.
It doesn't. Yeah, I agree with you.
It just goes on and on and on. But what I mean is a particular standout gimmick, like the chandelier falling in Phantom, or if we go back into ancient days, getting the audience to clap to bring Tinkerbell back alive. Something like that. Or I mentioned last time, putting wires on Reeve Carney and swinging him out over the audience as Spider-Man. So if the wires hold, you have a
Whoa. There's a musical of Spider-Man?
I was to say that, Sean.
We talked about it a couple of days ago.
Turn Off the Dark. Yeah.
I missed that. I didn't know. All right, that's why I was saying I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I completely lost. The
speculation for the showrunners was if the wires hold, we have a Broadway memory that everyone in the audience will take back home with them to Minnesota. And if the wires don't hold, we lose a third-rate musician. If Reeve Carney just goes flying into the back of the studio, then it'll be no problem. Or the gimmick in Sunday in the Park with George.
Yeah.
Where the whole of the big first act ends in a perfect reconstruction of the painting right there on stage.
I would love to see that live.
It's amazing. Or there's an ongoing gimmick in Sweeney Todd with the crisis horn,
right.
The bullhorn, that you never know when it's coming, and right when you think you can predict when it's coming, it doesn't, and it surprises you, so it jolts the whole audience. I like the stuff like that. I don't like The Lion King. Julie Taymor's The Lion King. The moment when Simba's father appears to him as a ghost, as a vision, is unbelievable. You don't believe you're looking at a stage. That's kind of amazing.
The design for that show was
it's amazing. It's amazing, but unbelievable. It costs $600 to get a ticket. So how are you ever going to know that? Exactly. What's the point of a big Megillah like Hamilton if people are scalping the tickets for $1,700?
Oh,
what's the point of it?
I know.
I was surprised there was a documentary on last week and this week in the UK. Well, documentary is probably a loose term. About you might know him, Sean Alan Carr, the comedian. He was talking about his love for Agatha Christie, so he was kind of like delving into her life and things. But it was very interesting because he went to the theatre, St Martin's Theatre in London, where they have the Mousetrap still on for 70 years, still going strong. And they were talking about this person who actually bought the film rights for it like 70 years ago, and in the contract was that it could only be filmed once it left the theaters.
Oh no! And it's never left.
It's never left. So.
You got to be careful of contracts like that.
You do.
But it reminds me of a similar thing, but obviously less financial loss. There was a French woman, Jean-Marie Calment, I think her name was, if I remember rightly. She's kind of the oldest recorded living person. She died at 123 or 124 back in 1996, 97, I don't remember. But they had this system in France, and I think it happens in other places where people approach older people who live in houses and they buy the house from them, and the people can live there. Well, basically, they pay them some money for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So her doctor did this. He bought her house, and of course, he died like 20 years before she did. Yes, so it doesn't.
There was a biographer who wanted to write an authorized biography of an American State Department guy named George Kennan, the guy who invented the term the Cold War and who invented most of the realities of the Cold War. And he said, okay, I suppose if you want to write my authorized biography, you could do it. After all, I'm 72, so I'm not getting any younger, but I want to stipulate in the contract that you can't publish the book until I'm dead. Yeah. And he lived to 102. So we just sat there. And, if that biographer did not consult with me, but if he had, I would have told him, that's exactly what George Kennan is going to do. He's going to live to 102.
What was the biographer's name, Steve?
I'm blanking on his name right now, but if you type in, like if you go to Google and type in Kennan biography, it's the first one that will come up.
Okay, I think it's the one I've read then. I'm trying to remember.
He has a new one coming. There's a new biography of Kennan coming out, but it's not
really?
That.
Oh, awesome. I'll have to find that.
Oh, somebody wants to know if anybody has seen the musical Hair, and they very diplomatically point out that it's before my time.
There we go.
There was also a mention, I think, in the chat of Patti LuPone in Evita.
There was.
Which was terrific. Yeah, there we go. That was a terrific show.
I would have loved to see Evita.
You haven't seen the Madonna film then, Micah?
I haven't. I've heard the music. I need to see the movie still.
Patti LuPone is terrific.
Oh, she is.
The only reason that I'm
so glad she's back in company. I have to try to go see it.
Yeah, but who knows what the tickets are like for company?
I'm sure it's incredibly high.
It's probably extortionate. Absolutely extortionate.
I'm sure. I think she's back because it's a limited time that she's back for.
Well, plus the problem that I have with Patti LuPone is that she has so often reprised roles that I know from Ethel Merman. So right. She can't help but seem less talented to me when I know she's not.
Right.
No.
I mean, following the footsteps of Ethel Merman for anyone, it's going to be challenging.
Oh, right. John Lewis Gaddis. That's the guy.
Okay. Yeah. That's the one I have. That's the one I've read.
I should send you the new Kennan biography. I didn't even think about that. I should put that in the mail and send it to you.
That would be amazing.
I'm loaded with copies of it. I've got like three copies of the ARC, so I don't need all three.
I would love that if you don't mind. Absolutely.
Oh my! No, this is making me nostalgic for when I used to go to Broadway every weekend.
That's amazing.
With no exorbitant amount of money. I know that will shock you all, since I've recently been characterized as an elitist. But I had no exorbitant amounts of money, and yet I would leave for the city on Friday night. I would see a movie in the city on Friday night. I would see the opera, and I would see a Broadway show, or more than one. And I'd come back on Sunday night. And that was my weekend. It was I was out my spending money, but I wasn't out a mortgage payment.
I was very lucky when I was a student.
From New York City, Steve?
2.5 hours. Just take the cheapest bus imaginable, and you're there in no time at all.
Yeah.
The Chinatown bus brings you. It drops you off. You pick it up in North Station here, or South Station, but it drops you off in Chinatown. And Chinatown, if you know where you're going, it's a 5-minute walk from there to the Strand.
Okay.
Which is your first stop, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
You go to the Strand and fill a bag with books. But I knew people in town all over, just dotted everywhere around town. So if I had a huge tote bag of books, I could drop it off somewhere.
Oh, nice.
We used to get lots of discounted shows as students in Edinburgh, and it was really good quality stuff. I mean, you could go and see. I remember they did Wagner's Ring Cycle, and the ticket prices for students was, I can't even remember, but it was nothing. It was fantastic. And all sorts of concerts were, I think it'd be maybe £5 a ticket for a student, which was great, So
£5 would be considerably overpaying for the Ring Cycle. Unless it comes with its own cocaine. Otherwise, I'm not sure I could get through it another time.
Yeah, well, once is probably enough, but
The marathon theater events like that, I don't think. Well, I was going to say they're for young people, but A, I'm very young, and B, a lot of the people I've seen at them have been old. So, I mean, 25 years ago here in Boston and in New York, there was a show called Tantalus. I think it was called Tantalus, that told in theatrical form the whole story of Greek mythology. From the beginning, through all of the myths in Ovid, all the way through the Trojan War and all of the Greek tragedies to the end. And it was like 2 full days that you were there. They would hand you pillows and whatnot, stop for meals and that sort of thing. And there are plenty of people there who were old. So maybe it's not the endurance.
Well, maybe the ticket was cheaper than the price of heating. So this kind of thing is going to increase. So maybe you'll end up with theaters packed out and, community amateur theaters packed out because it's too cold at home.
I was really tempted to do it. Gimmicks like that always get to me. I'm always tempted when there's a gimmick, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it. The closest I ever came was a John Singer Sargent exhibit at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, where the Museum of Fine Arts decided the gimmick they would do would be that for that exhibit, the museum had no closing hours. So you could actually book your time to see that exhibit at 3 a.m. if you wanted to. I couldn't resist that. But sitting in a theater? Oh, no. I don't think I could. I don't think I could do that.
What, for something specific or for anything now?
No, for anything now. I don't think I could. I don't think I could justify it to myself. What is this, though? The newest Star Wars?
I'm not sure yet. We're in a Star Wars breakout session in the chat here.
I haven't seen the newest ones.
I don't know what is meant by the newest Star Wars. I watched all of Kenobi. I did not know what to make of it at all. I know I was supposed to like it, and Ewan McGregor seems really likable, but
it's still him in it, is it?
He reprises his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's
Alec Guinness didn't then.
No, Alec Guinness has been dead for 150 years.
Yeah.
He died shortly after the American Civil War concluded.
But I'm gonna have to go. I got a message. I'm gonna have to leave. Sorry.
No problem.
All right. I'll kick you out then.
Okay.
Bye, Sean.
No, Kenobi was just bad. It was just bad, and in lots of stupid ways, in lots of really easily fixable ways. I mean, critics of the show said going into it, all right, well, you can do anything you want. We're open to all the creativity in the world, but there are a few things we know for absolute certain. If you're setting a show at a time when Obi-Wan Kenobi is in the desert in Tatooine looking after Luke Skywalker, there are some things we know for sure. One is that he didn't spend any meaningful time with Luke. They don't know each other at all. And 2, really clear from the movie, the first movie, is that Luke Skywalker should never have seen a lightsaber before. He doesn't know what it is. That's the whole point of that scene, is that he's never seen one before. And those are 2 of the first things the showrunners in Kenobi decided to throw out. I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but if you've been a big Star Wars fan since as a teenager, you fell in love with that first movie in a crowded theater in Sandusky, Ohio, and it's been in your mind, your imagination ever since, you've just been told by the people who own the rights to Star Wars that movie didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
That the creators of the show right now don't care about it.
It's again meddling with things that frustrates people.
Yeah, meddling with things. Yeah, like
I honestly don't get it.
No. If you're going to adapt something, the stereotypical example is Demi Moore's The Scarlet Letter. But there are many other such examples. I don't understand it. And I especially don't understand because it never works. Not in artistic terms, and also not in Hollywood terms. Those things always lose money. If you do that, it always loses money. So I don't know why. The new Disney Star was intentionally terrible. No, I don't think it's intentionally terrible, but all the qualities that make it terrible are intentional. If that makes any sense. That kind of hair splitting makes any sense. Disney is yet another entertainment corporation that's just decided there is this phantom audience out there, and we have a long list of the things this phantom audience likes, and we're going to make these properties coincide with that list. They've never had any proof that phantom audience exists, but they do it anyway. They do it anyway. What? So, and it doesn't work. It loses the money every single time. It loses the money. So, anyway.
I don't know. Crazy. Well, I mean, maybe we should wrap up soon. I mean, we're almost at the 2-hour mark, actually. So.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And I'm extremely hot.
Are you really? Is it very hot there?
It's very, very muggy, and also it doesn't help that I put on this figure hugging new rugby shirt thing, which isn't particularly comfortable at the moment. So
Oh man.
I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get it off. It's one of the new skin tight ones.
Yeah.
So I'll probably have to turn up at work on Monday and ask them to cut it off.
Maybe a new look, Mark.
That's it. Yeah. If you see me wearing it in all my videos from now on, I just got to be able to get it off. So
Boston's getting a temporary reprieve from the heat, but it's coming back next week.
Yeah, it's frustrating that it's come back because obviously school's back, summer should be over, and yet it doesn't.
All kinds of students in Boston now.
Just doesn't look too bad next week,
but at least today, if for watchers of my channel, at least today they don't have to satisfy themselves with me going on and on about the weather. Because I did a video where I interview an actual meteorologist and I let him go on and on about the weather instead. So it
wasn't it wasn't the head of the Hungarian meteorological department, was it?
No.
You saw them this week, did you? Or
pretty infamous mega viral clip. No, this is a meteorologist who's Micah's age.
All right. Okay.
Wow.
But he's a star. He's in the #1 rated TV slot in Washington, D.C. And what's Micah doing with his life?
Yeah. What am I doing with my life? You tell me that. You answer for me.
You're not the #1 slot in anything.
I am not.
Maybe BookTube.
You wait,
I
Steve.
doubt that.
He'll be overtaking you in a week, I'm sure.
The only thing, I played back that video, and for some reason, it's not the usual Skype or Zoom call where it's a split screen. Instead, the screen moves to me when I'm talking and to him.
Oh, it's like in speaker view where it.
I must have had it on speaker view by mistake. I certainly didn't want it to be that way.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
I think it still works. So,
is that already up on your channel?
Yeah,
Did I missed it? Oh, must have missed it.
Oh, probably while you've been on here.
Probably.
I see the warden went up, so I was like, "Am I going to have to read that? Am I going to have to read that tonight?"
The only reason that the meteorologist thing went up, one of the main reasons, apart from the fact that I really like Matthew, is that I've had so many people say to me, "Please do more interviews with authors. Please do more interviews with authors." So, every publicist who gets in touch with me about a book, they all say that. They all say, "Hey, would you also be interested in interviewing the author?" And I just reflexively ignore it. But now I have to train myself not to do that. I have to train myself to reflexively say yes to everybody. Because only 1 in 5 is going to work out anyway.
Right.
So I should just agree to everybody, except for there's a peril to that, because what if I hate the book? I hate doing it.
I'm a bit upset though, that I must have fallen out of the age bracket there, Steve, for the nice, young, intelligent boys to be interviewed on your channel. I must have gone past my best, I'm afraid. So
quite some time ago.
I would say so.
Quite some time ago.
It scares me to think that actually you could be my son, Micah. Now that's terrible. I would never have imagined that, but technically you could be.
It's possible.
I couldn't quite be your dad, Sean, at 28. Not just there.
Micah could be my very slightly younger brother.
Yeah. There we go.
We're often mistaken for twins.
Yeah, just 10 years older than me, Steve. Only a decade more. You work.
Deb and I never kept any of our children.
Too expensive.
They're more trouble than they're worth.
Yeah.
We just got rid of them.
Get rid of them.
Yeah. We would bring them to the dump, watch them crawl around for a while, and then drive off.
Well, when you have dozens like you had, you have to do that.
Deb typically has 6 at a time.
You can't house that.
Well, it worked for the ancient Greeks, exposing them, so,
Poor Mark, he's feeling old and decrepit now.
Honestly, I am, I have to say.
He's feeling old and decrepit, and he's hot, and he's never going to take that jersey off. So
never going to.
His whole life is downhill from here.
I think it's a Winnie the Pooh stuck in the hole moment.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to take it
Micah
off.
is at 6 and 7s about what he wants to do with his life. The only cool person in this chat is me.
We should have known that from the start here, Steve. That's always the case, and we never remember it.
I've tried to control myself, and the chat hasn't helped. The chat brought up Patti LuPone and Broadway. That's usually enough to make me just lose it. I tried not to.
Absolutely.
Deb is an amazing something. I'm not sure what. Although she informed me just this morning that she has brand new Wi-Fi.
There we go. I was about to ask what happened to the Manatee Monday.
She moved up to Maine. She's up with her people in Maine, and they had no Wi-Fi to speak of. Just a shack out in the woods somewhere. But now they do.
Okay, so we're going to see a return of that, maybe?
Intense Hollywood-style negotiations to get her back to Manatee Monday.
We need that back.
We do. It's the most requested thing on my channel, but does that move her at all? No, it does not.
I've watched them all. I need a new one.
Maybe she'll watch this. No, she won't. The minute she sees that I have started even vaguely to talk about Broadway shows, she'll stop listening. I could go on literally forever. I've seen so many Broadway shows.
I love that. I've seen 6.
Well, you can't do it anymore. It's you that people in your age bracket that I feel sorry for.
Yeah,
we can't do it anymore.
We have a local performing arts center that's fantastic. That's a little cheaper. It's still expensive for me to swing, but it's cheaper. But yeah, as far as anything on Broadway in New York City.
If you were closer, if you got an apartment, in Brooklyn or Soho or something like that, and you wanted to go to see Broadway shows in your spare time, you couldn't do it.
No,
you couldn't work enough.
I could barely live. You could probably barely pull it off.
Yeah.
For my age bracket, at least. Without some form of financial boosting from someone.
Without the financial security that comes from having a culinary arts degree.
However, chefs don't make anything. So.
Just see how that
almost tempting me to cook some supper, but why would I need to cook supper if there are cans of Alpo sitting right there?
Exactly.
So, gentlemen, shall we call it a day?
Ordinarily, I'd be the first one to give you the heave-ho, but I was telling Micah, for some odd reason, I got all my work done today.
Yeah, well.
Which is why I'm malingering like this, personally insulting my host instead of going about my business.
We're close to the 2-hour mark there, aren't we? So it's probably a natural natural end there.
I should do a live stream of my own today. To while away the time.
Why not? It's great. It is very addictive, I have to say. I really enjoy it.
Can be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it really can. A good live stream.
Not for you though. Steve, because of the comments like whooshing past.
Well,
thousands of
yeah,
people.
trying to follow along with the comments, Steve, on your live streams is impossible.
But my commenters get that. They're not. At least they're not upset about it.
Yeah.
And the ones that I
has to
do
be
see,
impossible
boy
to
oh
manage.
boy, I have heard from people, from YouTubers, that a good live stream can really turn your day around.
Mm.
And I thought that is pure narcissism talking, but then I've done it and it's true.
Yeah.
It really can.
I need to do one. This is my first.
I can just never sleep after though, because it's like the buzzing. It's like, you know, I have such a good time. It's
Oh,
like,
right.
I'm lying in bed thinking, oh, that was really nice, you know. So, well, that's just,
A, I don't sleep, and B, I think everyone else in the world is boring. So it's prolonged contact with them is soporific at best.
so it's
So we just put you to sleep, and you
probably
don't sleep.
best to have live streams on your own then, isn't it?
Oh, Joanna
Guaranteed-
Burgess says
guaranteed
they do have the internet
intelligent-
in Maine. I'm
guaranteed
sure you have the
intelligent
internet in Maine, but wherever Deb was, she didn't have the internet. Now she does. Now she's all set. All I need to do is get her on for Manatee Monday.
So that's what you can do, Steve. You can now have part 2 on your channel. So when you start it up, you can say, this is part 2, and you're continuing on your own, and
There
all
we
these
go.
people are going to come over and watch you.
I think a certain someone probably wants to go for a stroll between now and then. So-
I'm sure.
and I don't actually know how hot it is outside. It could be really bad outside.
Mm.
We shall see.
It's the humidity I can't stand. You know, I'm just.
Yeah. It's worse than the heat.
Well, Mike is in the deep south, and yet you haven't voiced a single complaint about the weather.
It's not good. It's not good. It's manageable though. Air conditioning.
Well,
All right. Well, what I'll do, I'll stop the chat, the live here, but you can stay in. You can stay in for a second. You don't have to drop off straight away. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Do take care and see you all again soon. Bye. Want to say bye, everybody?
Bye, everybody.
Bye to everyone.
Bye. Love you. Bye. Bye. Bye.
It feels weird to say bye to people